Hello everyone and welcome back to this short Magnus Carlsen saga of the GRENKE Freestyle Chess Open Tournament, but it could also be the short Vincent Keymer saga. Vincent is also undefeated going into the final round, and he's coming off of two very strong wins against Grandmaster Sergei Movsesyan and Grandmaster Andrei Yesipenko. Now he gets to play Magnus with black, as, well, we said every time, the reward for playing very well in the tournament is you get to face Magnus. And here Magnus has the white pieces, and Magnus needs a win in order to get a 9 out of 9, and getting a 9 out of 9 in a classical tournament, that is, well, outer-worldly performance. It's something that we would expect, for example, from Bobby Fischer or from Capablanca or from Kasparov or, you know, from any of the greats of the past. And Magnus wants it, especially now. It's new, you know, this is the new chess that is being played everywhere in the world. If he can pull off a win in the first big open tournament, such as the GRENKE Chess Freestyle Open, that will be set in stone. So his opponent, you know, the one who will try to do everything to stop that, Vincent Keymer, he also wants to win. Let's see what happened. So Magnus with white opens with pawn to d4. And okay, the queen is on d1, so it makes perfect sense. We have pawn to d5 and knight to b3. We have pawn to f6, preparing some pawn to e5 in the future. And also this knight might come to f3, so you're already guarding e5 and g5. And Magnus breaks opening principle theory basically by moving the same piece twice in the opening. He plays knight to c5. But it's the top move recommended by the engine, so it's not that bad, and the b7 pawn is hanging. So look at this, Vincent defends with knight to d6, h4 by Magnus, and pawn to a5. We have bishop to h2, that's why he played pawn to h4. He wants to capture the knight here and then capture on b7, so Vincent plays pawn to b6, and now Magnus plays knight c back to d3. After the game, Magnus was shown this position, and they told him knight to d3 is basically categorized as a mistake. Well, the engine says it's a mistake. Reason being that the knight should come to a6. But if you play knight a6, you would already have former world champion Vladimir Kramnik vulturing around your table, as that would be incredibly suspicious. Because why would you do this? Why would you trap your own knight? Point is that if black, let's say, avoids the trade, bishop for knight plays bishop to a7, there's no good way to go after that knight. And also you can play c3, you can further play bishop to d3, defend that knight, and it's going to be an incredibly powerful piece there. But okay, it would also be very, very suspicious. Magnus played knight c back to d3 and pawn to c5. Vincent strikes against Magnus's center, c3 and pawn to c4. He grabs more space, pushes the knight further back, or as the knight cannot go back, further front, knight to f4 and pawn to b5. Vincent just grabs more space on the queen side, pawn to f3 and pawn to e5. Really going all out here. Vincent does not want a passive position. He wants to play, he wants to beat Magnus, and pushing all of them pawns. D captures on e5, we have f captures on e5, and now knight captures on d5, trading the d pawn for the h pawn. Queen captures on h4, which is a very good move, as you don't have any nasty discovery since the rook on h1 is undefended. So here Magnus thought for about 10 minutes, and he figured pawn to g4. And pawn to f4 and pawn to g4 are the only two moves that the engine says that white can play in order not to be worse, and that is what Magnus plays. Pawn to g4, saying that, okay, now we're going to play king to g2, and we're going to threaten some nasty discoveries. And Vincent goes bishop to a7, which is also very nice, as he's already threatening checkmate on f2. And Magnus played pawn to e3, which is a very natural move. You cut off the bishop, you stop checkmate on f2. But just for fun, I will show you another disgusting engine line. Look at this, knight to b6. Even that is possible here, as now you cannot play bishop captures on b6, as there is a queen captures on d6 check. So you will play rook to d8 to defend the knight, nicely align the rook with the queen, but now you're going to play knight g2. You're going to kick away the queen, so the queen does not have access to the f2 square. And once the queen moves, now you will capture on a8, and okay, black either captures back or probably just goes after the black king, and you have a, you know, very, very interesting game. but objectively it is white who is better here. But after bishop to e7, Magnus played pawn to e3, and Vincent now goes back, queen to h6, and now Magnus goes for the intended king to g2. Again, Magnus also showed in the interview after the game this very interesting idea of rook to c2, where the rook can either double up on the d file, or let's say something happens like knight to b6. You can even play knight captures, and bishop g1 to defend on e3, and also you are attacking the queen. The queen cannot be captured, otherwise a queen captures on d6 comes with check, and also rook to h1, rook to h2 can just trap the black queen. So there are all sorts of these nasty ideas where you would just have to move the queen, and then the rook comes to d2, further attacking the knight, and so on and so on. It'd be a really interesting position. Vincent probably castles queenside, so the rook automatically comes to d8. It would be a complete mess of a position. But Magnus, in the end, decided to go for king to g2, even though the engine says, okay, you can go rook c2 or king to g2, both is perfectly fine. So king g2, and now queen to e6. Vincent moves the queen, now is attacking the knight, the bishop also helping out. Pawn to e4, and now knight to c7. We have knight to c2 by Magnus, and castles queenside by Vincent. Knight c to e3, and now queen back to e8. Okay, Magnus goes queen to e2. You could also capture on c7 first, but this is now, very, very complicated territory. So Magnus says, all right, if you want to capture, you can capture on d5, as after knight captures on d5, now Magnus has to choose. Does he bring the knight to this awesome square, or does he free up the light square bishop right away with e captures on d5? So Magnus decides to go for knight captures on d5. Both is perfectly fine. And Vincent strikes on the king side with pawn to h5. He wants to go after Magnus's king. We have bishop to g3 and bishop to e6 now. Apologies for that. Bishop to e6, and now Magnus, of course, does not want to open up the h-file. He plays pawn to g5. He said that he wasn't sure about this move, but, what else is there? If you capture on e5, which is the top move recommended by the engine, the following is completely unnecessary to calculate, because look at this position. H captures, rook captures on h8, queen captures on h8, f captures on g4, queen to h4, now putting pressure on the g3 pawn, rook to h1, and now you just trade everything. Bishop captures on g4, rook captures, bishop captures on e7 even. You don't have rook to g8 due to knight e7 check, so probably something like bishop to d3. And even though Magnus is up a pawn, this past the d pawn with the knight coming to c4, could be very, very dangerous. So instead, after bishop to e6, pawn to g5 by Magnus, rook d7, and now rook c to d1. And Vincent was away from the table. He got back in this position, and he just played pawn to h4. And he's already down to 5 minutes on the clock. It's an incredibly difficult position. King to b7 or rook to f8, improving the position a little bit, maybe stopping f4 in the future. You don't really have to worry about the e5 pawn, but Vincent went pawn to h4 right away. And it's not that it's a bad move. It's perfectly playable. But it's also very complicated. Magnus plays bishop captures on h4, probably something Vincent didn't account for. Of course, capturing on e5, queen to h5, and then Vincent is just better. It's a pretty, a wild position, but queen captures on g5, a threat, bishop to pawn to h3 in some lines. So not easy to spot. Also, you have to worry about knight captures on e4, as the queen on e2 is undefended. So this was what Vincent had in mind. But Magnus pretty quickly played bishop captures on h4, spent some 3 minutes calculating this, and now Vincent played queen to d8, with the idea of giving up the rook for the bishop and then playing queen captures on g5, which could also happen if you play queen to g6, but here it runs into pawn to f4. So now you cannot capture, and if you play e captures on f4, knight captures, and now queen to e8, and after queen to f3, rook to f8, and now, for example, bishop to g3, and everything is perfectly fine. So after this bishop to h4 move, Vincent played queen to d8, which is the proper way to continue. Now, you don't have to worry about pawn to f4, as if pawn to f4, you can just go knight to f5, and then all hell breaks loose, which is similar to what happened in the game. Magnus played queen to e1. He stopped the rook captures on h4, so you cannot give up the rook for bishop and capture on g5. Rook to h5, and now Magnus played queen to g3. And Vincent is down to 38 seconds on the clock. There is only one move that keeps him in the game. And I thought about which move do I make the pause the video moment. So you try to find the only move that saves Vincent, that keeps him in the game, you know, while I give you a couple of seconds. You have 38 seconds. The move in question is queen to e8. And it's that simple. You're stopping queen captures on e5 with the tactic of bishop h3 check. And without queen captures on e5, here in this position, it's not easy to find a good move for white. You have to slowly, you know, improve the tension, the pressure, bishop c2, pawn to a3, but nothing concrete in the position. But Vincent, after queen to g3, played knight to f5, and this simply does not work. Magnus captured, Vincent captured with the rook, rook captures on d5, and now Vincent played bishop captures on d5. After the game, Magnus also showed what happens if queen captures on d5, and you know, just you know, this is a quick calculation for Magnus. He calculated all the way: queen to d2, king h3. Sorry, king h3, and now bishop to f2, attacking the queen, pawn to e7. Threatening the queen with check, queen d7 with check, stopping the queening of the pawn, and now just king g2. That is absolutely disgusting. Bishop captures on g3, and now the only winning move, bishop to f5. Absolutely crushing. There's nothing you can do here. If queen captures, you're going to bring a queen into the game. King b7, then you capture the rook. You're up a full rook, and of course, completely winning. So after rook captures on d5, bishop captures on d5 was played, and now queen to g4, attacking the rook and threatening a nice discovery when you advance the pawn to f6. Bishop to f7. Again, apologies, coming down with something. But yeah, bishop to f7, pawn to g6, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop, and, well, just leaving black. Also attacking the queen here. Queen to d2 with check, king to h3, and now rook captures on h4. This is the only way for Vincent to stay in the game. He has to give up the exchange. And now queen captures. You have to be careful not to capture with the king, otherwise you run into a perpetual. So queen captures, and now bishop to d5, but Magnus quickly throws in a bishop to e4, and not much for Vincent to look for here. Bishop captures, we have queen captures on e4, queen to h6 check, and it's very easy for Magnus to get out of this. King to g2, and now after queen g5 check, queen g4, threatening a nice discovery, queen to d2 check, and now king to g3. Again, not h3, as then you again run into queen h6 check. So king g3, and now king to c7. Giving a check is nice, but once you play king h3, that's all there is to it. Pawn to f6 by Magnus still works even without the check. Bishop to f2 with check. We have king to h3, and now bishop back to c5. But Magnus checks out what's happening quickly, and he just goes f captures on g7. Queen to h6 with check. We have king to g2, and now queen to d2 with check, king to g3, and he was in this position on move 41 that Vincent Keymer resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So there you have it, superhuman performance by Magnus Carlsen. He won the tournament even after the last round, because no one could catch up to him, even Vincent with a win here in this position. But yeah, he wins with a 9 out of 9, which is, I mean, just unreal. I checked the performance, the rating performance it's close to 3,400, not quite, but it's 3385 rating performance in a classical event. That is, I mean, that is like literally inhuman performance that you would expect from an engine. I've read somewhere that you cannot really calculate rating performance if a player wins with 100%. There has to be at least one draw for the formula to make sense. But yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? It is what it is. This is the rating performance, and Magnus wins the tournament spectacularly. Tough break for Vincent. He really wanted to win, to, you know, get second place. This way, I don't know what the final standings are. I don't think all of the games have finished. I could quickly check. Just give me a second. But yeah, no. Vincent will not be anywhere near the top. Yeah, because there are so many people with 7 points: Linier, Fabiano, Espenko, Sarana, Parham, Arjun, Svane, Frederick Svane, and yeah, Vincent, not close. But yeah, crazy game, incredible performance by Magnus once again. Very much looking forward to what he does next, and if there is anything for him to even do next. He has now really won everything there is to be won. He has never officially won the official random world championship, but 9 out of 9 in this event, I think that qualifies, you know, at least for. And okay, they're not allowed to call this officially a world championship, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we you know all agree who the best Fischer random player in the world is, and winning 9 out of 9, completely Fischer-esque performance, you know, in a Fischer random tournament by Magnus Carlsen. There you have it. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Now that we've covered the Magnus saga, I will cover some other games if you guys want, you know, use that hashtag suggestion. I would like to thank Nicolo Paolo Chiocque Sissante, Charles Benjamin Flynn, Diane Schwartz, Mohammed Babar Khalil, and the Animated Chemist for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And yeah, there's nothing more. Like, you can give one more check. King h3, and after queen h6 check, there's king g2. The queen is hanging, the bishop is hanging, the queen is coming into the game. This is resigns. See you soon.